Get ready to embark on an eye-opening journey into the heart of the EdTech revolution. Join us as we welcome Chris Evans to the driving force behind Kahoot's game-based learning phenomena to growth leaders. As the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Kahoot, Chris is instrumental in shaping the company's cutting-edge platform, which has become synonymous with interactive, engaging learning experiences. Kahoot's innovative business model, offering a range of services for schools, academies, and workplaces, has revolutionized the way we approach education and training. From classrooms to conference rooms, Kahoot's platform is empowering learners of all ages to unleash their potential and achieve greatness. Join us as we deep dive into Chris's role, his leadership style, and the transformative power of technology in education. Most welcome, Chris, to Growth Leaders.
Hi, thanks, Peter, for having me. I really appreciate it.
I really look forward to talking with you today. And when I look back or look into your career, you started off a little bit, a short time as a software engineer, and then you got pretty fast into become a lead. And then since 17, you were the CTO on how do you pronounce? Futurely?
Everybody always says this. It's always been a pretty controversial name, but it's supposed to be Futurely. I'm sure it could have been a better name, but yeah, Futurely was the name of the product back then. It went under many, many names, by the way. I think there was lots of rebranding, so Futurely is the one, yeah.
And then you were so-called fractional CTO on a company called Null, in parallel with Drops after that.
Yep.
And then you got acquired into Kahoot. Out of
Correct.
these 4 companies you've been, what has been some of the exciting developments, which has really been some really cool stuff? It does not have to be Kahoot. It can be, because I think when I look into it, it really looks like a interesting journey. So maybe you just start off from Futurely. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it goes back before Futurely, really. So when I originally came out of university, I did computer science, very much a sort of traditional background. I wanted to go into a bigger corporation, more defense and sort of security, because I was always interested in doing that. Realized that actually that was not for me at all. And within a couple of months, I had sort of jacked all of that in order to go down the route of startups. I met a founder in a coffee shop somewhere in Brighton, and turned into pretty much a small startup that went on to, grow over that sort of 3 to 5 year period. It went through multiple names, multiple companies. It was sold a couple of times, and then more recently it's been sold since I've left, which is, great news for them. But after that, I actually realized that I think I'd spent 6 or 7 years with the same leadership team. So what I wanted to do was go and find some consulting or CTO-based work. So I became a fractional...
What did you do? What did you do on Futurely? What did you develop
so
there?
I kind of pretty much started with front-end development. That was the beginning, and that was for financial tech and forecasting. So it's essentially like a small business owner's app for looking at your accounting data, your financial data, and making decisions based off of that. And that kind of evolved to a much more complex financial forecasting. It took on some seed and Series A, VC funding, which was super interesting. And the company scaled very, very quickly. It was a pretty great fintech company in Brighton. It was one of the bigger ones that kind of came from nothing to everything. It had a really awesome leadership team that was super fun to work with, and largely all female as well, which was something that was quite rare to see. And I sort of went from the front-end development stack, because I always loved building things that people would utilize and use. I've always enjoyed back-end development and building out logic and infrastructure, but actually the thing that I care about most is what do people see and what's the experience that they have. So I built that for a while, and then I sort of moved more into technical leadership, which was doing full stack development and looking after people. It was definitely a baptism of fire, put it that way. Didn't have too much support, and from lessons from coaches over the years, has really helped explain maybe there was some stuff in there that is how not to do it rather than how to do it. So that's kind of helped me reflect and look back and improve. But then I've gone on and sort of done a lot more leadership management stuff after that. But I've always remained very hands-on. So leaving that company, I was very very much wanting to get out there and do something different. So I became a fractional CTO at my own company, and went into somewhere between 15 and 20 companies of different sizes, totally different industries, really crazy stuff, whether it was from, film to peer-to-peer lending to video games to you name it. I was going in and just trying to fix things and figure things out, which was great. And that came with helping people with funding. It came with all sorts of, exit, acquisitions, private equity buyouts, and on from there. And I also helped with resourcing, scaling, and building prototypes, etc. So that's where I met.
Do you still have that as a left hand?
I do have that as something that I do. These days I'm doing more sort of executive coaching, which I really enjoy. I'm doing a project with a company where they've taken on a new CEO and helping them rebuild the company has been super fun. I much more enjoy the sort of higher holistic view stuff now. So I like to spend time in code, but I also really like, it's pretty boring actually, but I really like things like budgets and understanding international scalability, marketing, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, because I think you have to build and put the foundation pretty early, if so you have something to build on if you're really gonna make the CTO journey successful. And then you went in somehow to Drops. I guess that was Drops. Maybe
So
you just tell a little bit what that is.
Sure. So Drops is a gamified-based language learning application, and I was doing one of the consulting, or I guess you could say sort of VP of engineering sort of roles. I had a chat with one of the founders, Mark, who was a super amazing guy, who basically asked me to take over as a CTO from him, and he moved more into a revenue role. And I met the other founder, Danny Farkash, who's an incredible guy. And essentially what that meant is coming in and they had a goal where they wanted to see the company acquired within at least, I don't know, sort of year and a half. And there's a certain journey that you go on in order to make that happen. There's the right team structure. There's the right growth targets. There's the right expectations. So going through there and harvesting as much sales and revenue as you can on the run up to an acquisition. That's the kind of role that I played. And I largely ran the engineering team, rebuilt the sort of product and support and QA team. And yeah, we scaled. It was a fully remote team. We always tried to keep the people under 25 to 30 as a headcount. I did that with an awesome leadership team. And then in swung a couple of big companies who were very interested in taking us on. And then a year and a half later, we were under the Kahoot banner, which was a pretty amazing journey.
That's fascinating. There is something here which I presume comes into the Kahoot also, and that is, as you say, the front end, because it's the user experience which really makes a difference. Of course, you have to have the backups coming along, but what really makes the difference is when the user really. How do you get into that, and what's your reasoning, or how do you reason with your team around setting thinking to get that right?
I mean, Kahoot is made up of many products, right? So they come from different acquisitions. There's the main source Kahoot platform, and then there's Actimo and Poyo and Dragonbox, Drops, Whiteboard. It just kind of goes on and on and on. And what you have in there is a huge collection of people that have built some amazing UXs that have made these companies profitable. If you then sort of go back and think about all the previous places that you've worked, whether it's products or prototypes, or even if they've failed, you've seen these products come along from people who have industry experience from lots of different places. So really what it is it's spending time with designers and UX experts and understanding how do these people think? What is the latest UX meetup you might go to? There is always someone who has some kind of very interesting presentation on something that they're trying to do with a product that nobody's seen before. You're constantly talking to product people who are just obsessed with the best UX. There was a thread recently in Slack, actually, where we must have spent quite a while talking about the invisible part at the bottom of Twitter. When you scroll and you can see the bar kind of goes a little bit translucent. Like somebody built that and somebody thought, well, we want to allow people to read tweets as they're scrolling down. So it's just the smallest thing like that. And based off of my sort of experience in video games and building apps, you can find a lot of good apps on the App Store with some really, really great customer experiences. So what you have to do really is you have to use, there's apps like Mobbin, where, if you go through, they have a huge selection of all the screenshots in an app. I'm obsessed with Mobbin. Like, I look at it every day, and I look at all the different apps and how they do things with journeys and UX and everything from that. So really, it's about surrounding yourself with product-obsessed people who want to do an amazing job. And Kahoot is, it's jam-packed with those people. They want to make some pretty awesome stuff.
That's something cool. So, and then you went directly into as a CTO for Kahoot after you were acquired by Drops, if I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So Kahoot has a few CTOs. They have Jostein Jansteiner and myself, and we we sort of look after collectively a bunch of products. The Kahoot is quite a large company with VP of engineering and a lot of an engineering resource. So there's it's a big company with a lot of split. I spend a lot of my time on Drops, most of my time actually, because Drops is still a pretty complex project with a lot of users. But Kahoot has an enormous team, an enormous history with a very experienced and successful leadership team.
When was Kahoot acquired? By
Kahoot,
Goldman Sachs?
as in when? Oh, that was this year. So that was a pretty.
There's another.
Yeah. That's a pretty new one.
Journey.
Yeah, totally. I mean, amazing though. If you think about how much Kahoot has become a household name and the kind of partnerships that Kahoot is doing it, whether it's the Peanuts brand or whether it's Star Wars or National Geographic or Disney, it's pretty amazing journey to watch Kahoot go through.
So let's make a jump here. You and I spoke a little bit earlier, and you said, now you're working with a lot of bright technical people, and in all companies there are a lot of technical. And now I'm putting you as a CTO in a soft skills development company, and what you said there was, I believe there's going to be people looking for collaborative, inclusive training, learning soft skills. So now you're a CTO. How would you approach the user handling and to get people? And soft skills is a broad topic. It's everything from the communication, it's the presentation, it's the interaction, it can be negotiation, it's everything, how we relate to each other and in teams, etc. But have you any thinking around that? So now you have a new job here.
Sure. I think that tech is, I find that tech is relatively easy and people are hard, right? Like if you find the most challenging aspects of an organization, it's people. That people are made up of many different things, many different types, many different motivations. And I sort of believe that you're only really as good as your organizational development team. Luckily, Kahoot has a phenomenal one. It's run by Irma Horvath, who's pretty much an industry-leading coach. And there's the people team like Carla, who know how to get their people to be empowered to do the things they need to do. And having an organizational dev team who understands that soft skills and social skills are the way to build competency, trust, and transparency is extremely important. So that can come in a range of things at a company, right? That's how I sort of see this anyway. Whether that's company gatherings to, hackathons, to having people who are remote based and in hubs. What you end up doing is you're mashing people together from lots of different experiences. There's a really great program at Kahoot called Elevate, which is a leadership and management based tool and course that teaches you a lot about how to run teams, how to be transparent, how to sort of show what your beliefs and motives are when you're building things. And how to listen, more importantly. So that is a company representing its people and how to level up. That is in addition with courses such as on Udemy or Coursera or other places, you're able to go and do that. But also you can find a wealth of this stuff of, user-created quizzes on Kahoot. If you want to go and learn something that's relatively interesting and then talk about it with your colleagues, you can do that because Kahoot has that much content that it covers such a broad range of stuff. So yeah, I think that's how I would sort of see that. I see that, I guess, social and soft skills more as, professional and personal growth and development. So that's how sort of Kahoot and previous companies I've been involved with have been doing that. Hopefully that sort of answers the question a little bit.
Yeah, it does. But because what we see here, I just had an advisory board meeting, and that's also some these is in there, venture capitalists and so on, and what their reflection is that the new generation coming up, who has really been into the computers and all that. They say they appear to miss out a little bit more on the soft skill side. Why that's going to be a very important piece here for the new generation and for corporations to actually bring that on as a daily journey to expand those skills as fast as possible in parallel with, of course, the technical skills. So that's really where I'm coming from on that. I don't know if you share that view. I don't know. Of course, it's individualized.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know if I do agree with that view. I think that over the last few years, I've seen such a rise in understanding how you work when you're most productive, right? So if you are expected as part of the company to be up in front of a team and, giving the sort of, presentation or something that's an expectation, really, I think you want to be playing to people's skill sets and to their strengths. So if you're an introverted person that likes to have their headphones on and likes programming all day, or likes, doing your product stuff in Jira and not being disturbed in Figma, that's fine. That's totally fine. I think as long as your company knows how to deal with that. If you're, a very charismatic salesperson, having a company where you sort of mix the two together can be great. It's a great experience for everyone involved. But really, I think companies should look more at playing to their people's strengths. What makes them productive? What makes them happy? What makes them, tick and motivated and ambitious? And actually, that's playing to who they are rather than trying to force them to fit in. So yeah, I would say social skills are definitely important, but actually I think companies are more learning about the diverse aspect of social skills rather than trying to put everybody in a box. I think that's where problems start to happen, is when, there's expectations for what somebody doesn't believe they are or who they are. So yeah, there's some great stuff around diversity and inclusivity there that we could talk about for a long time. But allowing people to, yeah.
Absolutely, and there is also where we see a difference between industries, because there's huge possibilities for this in the tech industry, which may not be all the same in a manufacturing or in other areas. But I fully agree with you. Build on the strengths and let people, grow where they are really and enjoy and are motivated as such. So when you now put together your own teams, you've done that now for 10 years' time. So what capabilities are you looking for to get both your tech management team, but then also the structures in there? Well, do you have any rules of thumb, or is it all about chemistry or the combination?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different values that you kind of hire from. I think for me, if you're going to hire great people, actually it comes down to how you manage them. So hiring great people really means allowing them the space and the resources to be great or do great things, right? So you're kind of off to a start already without even meeting somebody. You're kind of having to set your own management principles before that. I think that when you look for people to join a company, the sort of key ingredients that I've seen is that somebody is always learning, always interested in what is out there, I believe Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, I saw an interview with him the other day, and he kind of said that there are, two types of people in the world. There are the people who say, yeah, I think we can solve that. We can figure this out. And there's others who will do everything to say why you can't do that. That first group has a lot of success in engineering. I'm also looking for, this is much more, specifically engineering based, but I'm much more interested in people who want to solve problems rather than, with a specific tool. So if you have an engineer who has a tool set, that's someone who can think in a problem space rather than with a certain tool. If you try to fix a boiler with just a hammer, something's probably going to go wrong, right? But if you're recruiting someone who has a full tool set to solve multiple problems, and it's their mindset of that, that's another one. I also think hiring people who have been exposed to failure is super important. So allowing that kind of feedback loop and understanding where they went wrong and then redeploying themselves back into the same situation and thinking, okay, I see where I've gone wrong there. And then seeing failure to success is super important, because if you ask someone what their biggest failures are, that can be a really great example of learning, how they see failure, which kind of reflects on how they see others' failure, which is pretty cool. And also, people who can sort of show trust, accountability, and transparency. I think that you can show these when you are in an interview sort of stage, or getting together and seeing how people work together. We have a really interesting hiring thread at Drops where we do a trial day. So we invite somebody in, it's fully paid, and they have full unfettered access to our team for the day, and they have a sort of task to do. And it tells you everything about them, how they interact, the kind of questions they ask, how they present, what their time management skills are like. It's not the be all and end all if they don't solve the problem. In fact, that's actually not what we're looking for. We're more looking for them to come to the presentations and say, well, actually, I couldn't really solve this because it's such a large task to do, but I've given you the route that I would take, and I've given you, rough estimations, and I've started, I've met with the engineering managers and the testers and other stuff. I spend more time working with those people, asking them how they were communicated to and what the kind of questions were asked, because that's the everyday life that we're going to see them in, right? Yes. So that's been sort of a very consistent thing since I originally first hired, somebody at the first company. And whether it's, juniors or seniors or principal engineers, everything in between, that's very common, those sort of values I look for.
How do you recognize your guys and girls on the daily, and do you run competitions there? Because normally it's a team play, so there's also different schools on how you do things with those type. How do you make sure the team is strong, but more importantly here, how do you work with the recognition to people who are doing outstanding work?
I think the great thing is that Kahoot as a wider group does it in lots of different ways, which is great because that kind of you can learn from each other, right? How a company like Clever under the Kahoot banner does success and celebration is very different from how Drops does it. I think there isn't the right way to do it, but how, there's a way that your company culture is better fit for it. So we do lots of different things. So if you think about, if you under one umbrella at a bigger company, we have a Kahoot summit a couple of times a year where everyone gets together and sort of shows off the big highlights of their product in front of everybody at the company, which is a really great moment for celebration. There's lots of claps. You've got people using your product. We even have things like product expos where we set up all the stands of people under the Kahoot banner and show off what the latest things that they've been building. Everyone tours around, they play around with it, they get swag, they get loads of cool stuff like that. They get to talk to the people who built this stuff. I remember standing and looking at one of the new maths games that was built, and I was like, wow, this is really well done. Like, the animation is super smooth, it makes sense. And as I was sort of saying out loud, the guy who built it was right next to me. And it was just a really nice moment for him to say, yeah, I built this, and that took me like a year to build. That was a really awesome moment. But that's just that's a macro level. But on a micro level, the company meets every week, and we sort of chat and sit down on a Friday morning. We go through department by department, and we say, what has everybody been working on, and what have they been building? And they're showing off the latest and greatest. So with that comes a lot of, the screen lighting up with hearts and lots of claps and lots of recognition. And also it's about handing off recognition to another team. So there's one thing for a QA support or whatever team to say, wow, that was such an amazing job. The product looks great, or the product team. The data team will then come forward and say, well, here's some data based off of what's in production. Look what it's doing to our user base. It's amazing. And then the QA team will come forward, or the support team, and say, well, here's a bunch of support tickets that just say thank you for what we built. And you can put names and faces to features and functionality that are accessed by millions of people. So
That's
celebrating
beautiful.
success is really, really important, and it's pretty awesome. I mean, also the other thing we can do is a great place for feedback is reviews. So if you go onto an App Store or on Google or iOS, we just go through them and look at the sentiment analysis of what people are saying. And it's really quite fascinating. When we push something out, people come forward and say, this made a measurable difference to me, a meaningful impact in my life. So there's definitely some really great moments, when it comes to performance reviews and analyzing how we're doing at a company, where these people can come forward and say, yeah, I was pretty proud that, I made a difference to people's lives.
It's really impressive that you've been able to really get the different departments together, and especially the data, because that's also, catching up where things, an early product to the market will have more on the support side, but picking that up, and then you see the change. Well, that's very impressive. I think there's a lot to be learned from many on that.
Yeah.
So, Chris,
agreed.
when you have a fair amount of things in your mind. So when getting off, I mean, normally to make things really happen, you need that reflection time. You need that off thinking. So what do you do then? So not doing technology, or maybe that is technology. I don't know. I know it's cooking, or
no, I would definitely. I'm going to say technology, yeah, but no, I mean lots of things really. Like I love traveling. I love one of the best experiences I ever did was when I left school. I went traveling around Southeast Asia. I learned a lot in that time. I would never have been the same person if I hadn't gone there. And seen a lot of the different aspects of culture and amazing sights, and making sure that I had to wash my own clothes and feed myself in a different land far away from friends and family. But that's never left me. I've always loved doing that, and that's what sort of brought me to Denmark as part of the acquisition with Drops and Kahoot. Is it's an adventure, and it's something that's new and sort of different. I really enjoy that. And but yeah, as you said, technology again, like I'm learning a lot about game engines at the moment. I'm building my own sort of project in there, which is great fun. I love reading books. I'm not a particularly big one on fiction, but I love non-fiction books on just how the world works and why, economics, everything from stocks and trades to theories about what's going on in the world with physics later on in 100, 200 years with quantum computing. And also, cooking is great. I can cook a mean steak, so I really enjoy doing that too. And just getting out there, right? Like I like to spend time outside. When I get up in the morning, I try to get some sunlight as soon as possible, which is good. And also, I'm really into coffee. Like I just love coffee. So going around and finding good ones, good beans. yeah, exactly. That's what it's about. So yeah, and big into fitness. Love the gym, and just keeping myself busy. If I don't move, I find that I become stale and very agitated and irritated. So I need to be moving regularly.
Yeah, it sounds like you found the ingredients to make it come together, because it is, as you say, you do need to be out there and have, I think, clear interest in physics or sports or things like that, because that's it could be music, cooking, traveling, all those things, which could be gives you the other perspective. And since you're working with something rather intense, and when you do those things, sometimes you just meet up with people. Oh, you're into that too, and then suddenly things comes together. But you wouldn't meet that unless you do other things. So
Sure.
subconscious working in there.
Yeah.
I think
definitely.
Yeah, I think it's just great listening to you, talking to you, and it's just been a great moment having you on Growth Leaders, Chris. And I wish
Sure.
you your journey a continuous success. And thank you so much for being part with us.
Cool. Thank you for having me, and hopefully one day I'll come back and talk some more.
Thanks. See you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Peter.
Bye.
Bye.